We're getting 2 calls on the board. Person with a gun, 2200 South State. Female, black, light complexion, green track suit, has a gun, fighting with another female, black, dark complexion, occupant of a white car. September 8, 2025. 9:06 a.m. Chicago's South Loop. A 911 dispatcher receives frantic calls. Outside an elementary school, parents are screaming. Children are running, and a 31-year-old mother named Romeca Meeks Blackman lies bleeding on the pavement, just minutes after kissing her 6-year-old son goodbye. This wasn't random. This wasn't a robbery. This was calculated, personal, deadly. The shooter? Another mother. A woman who shared a devastating connection with Romeca, a man named Carlos Smith, who fathered children with both women. What started as a love triangle ended in gunfire, a fist bump over a dying body, and a community demanding justice. But the most shocking part? The shooter walked free for months. And when she finally appeared in court, she had a stunning defense. Romeca Meeks Blackman, 31, was a devoted single mother living in Chicago's South Loop. Friends and family described her as protective, loving, and fiercely independent. Every morning, rain or shine, she walked her 6-year-old son to school near Cermak Road and State Street. It was their routine, their bonding time, her promise that he would always be safe. Romeca worked hard to provide for her son, navigating the challenges of single motherhood with grace. She had dreams. A better future, stability, peace. On September 8, 2025, she kissed her son goodbye at the school doors, not knowing those would be her final moments with him. But Romeca wasn't the only woman connected to a man who would change both their lives forever. Carlos Smith, also known as Carlos Losos Way, was the thread binding 2 women in a toxic web. He had a child with Romeca Meeks Blackman. He also had a child with another woman, Quadajah Johnson. These 2 mothers existed in separate orbits, connected only by the man who fathered their children. Carlos was described as charismatic but complicated, juggling relationships and responsibilities in ways that created tension, jealousy, and unresolved anger. While the exact dynamics of his romantic life remain murky, one fact is undeniable. His involvement with both women created a powder keg. And on September 8, that powder keg exploded into deadly violence. And the other woman, Holly Johnson, was about to become a killer. Quadajah Johnson, known as Holly, was 28 years old and raising a child fathered by Carlos Smith. Unlike Romeca, Holly was licensed to carry a concealed firearm, a detail that would prove catastrophic. On social media, Holly projected confidence and strength, posting about motherhood and her struggles. But beneath the surface, sources say jealousy simmered. Holly knew about Romeca. She knew where she lived. She knew her routine. And according to newly filed charges, Holly had been digitally stalking Romeca, monitoring her location, posting, bashing videos, online, and making threats. One post would later haunt the case. "I could never," and "unaliving MF." The prosecution would argue these weren't just words. They were premeditation. And on September 8, Holly brought a gun to Romeca's morning routine. In the weeks leading up to the shooting, Holly Johnson's online activity became increasingly sinister. According to prosecutors, digital evidence shows Holly tracked Romeca's movements and whereabouts using social media and location monitoring. She posted videos targeting Romeca, publicly bashing her and making veiled threats. One phrase investigators uncovered, "I could never," was interpreted as sarcasm, implying Holly would do exactly what she claimed she'd never do. Another post referenced, "unaliving someone." Friends of Romeca later said she felt uneasy, mentioning drama with Carlos and another woman. But she never imagined it would escalate to murder. Holly knew Romeca's schedule. She knew the school drop-off time. And she showed up armed. September 8, 2025. The confrontation that would end in bloodshed. It was a typical Monday morning. Romeca held her son's hand as they walked toward the school entrance near Cermak and State. Parents chatted. Children laughed. The sun warmed the Chicago streets. Romeca said goodbye to her little boy, watching him disappear through the school doors. She turned to walk back to her white car parked along the curb. She had no idea someone was watching. She had no idea that in less than 6 minutes, her life would be over. Witnesses later described seeing another car, a black vehicle, pull up near Romeca's. A woman emerged, Holly Johnson, and she was heading straight for Romeca. Witnesses would soon hear the sounds of a violent confrontation. 911 calls started flooding in. Battery in progress, back in state. 4 males and 2 females fighting outside on the street. White car and black car on scene. Eyewitnesses reported seeing Holly approach Romeca aggressively. Voices were raised. Hands were gesturing. Romeca appeared to be backing away, trying to defuse the situation. But Holly wasn't backing down. Then Carlos Smith appeared. Prosecutors allege he physically intervened, grabbing Romeca, restraining her, possibly in a headlock. Witnesses described seeing Romeca struggle as Holly and Carlos argued with her. The scene escalated rapidly. Parents nearby began pulling their children away. Something was terribly wrong. And then Holly walked toward her car. What she pulled out next would change everything. A second 911 call came in. Person with a gun, 2200 South State. Female, black, light complexion, green track suit, has a gun, fighting with another female. Witnesses watched in horror as Holly Johnson opened her car door and retrieved a firearm. She turned back toward Romeca, who was still near her white vehicle. Romeca reportedly tried to move away, hands raised. But Holly raised the gun and opened fire. Multiple shots rang out. Bang, bang, bang. Parents screamed. Children cried. Romeca Meeks Blackman crumpled to the ground, struck multiple times. Blood pooled beneath her body on the pavement, just feet from where she'd kissed her son goodbye. And what Holly did next would shock even seasoned investigators. As Romeca lay dying on the street, witnesses reported something that defied comprehension. Holly Johnson didn't flee immediately. She didn't panic or call for help. Instead, according to multiple eyewitness accounts, she walked over to Carlos Smith, the father of both her child and Romeca's child, and fist bumped him. A fist bump, over the body of a woman she had just shot. One witness later testified in court. It was like they were celebrating. Like she had just won something. The image of that fist bump would become the prosecution's most powerful evidence, not just of guilt, but of premeditation, callousness, and intent. This wasn't self-defense. This was a victory lap. But the most shocking part was yet to come. Emergency responders raced to the scene. Romeca was rushed to a nearby hospital but pronounced dead shortly after arrival. Holly Johnson fled before police could secure the scene. Carlos Smith remained and was questioned by detectives. Hours later, Holly turned herself in. She was interrogated and released the same day without charges. The Cook County State's Attorney's Office cited the need for further investigation. The community erupted in outrage. Vigils were held, protests organized, social media exploded with #Justice for Romeca. She murdered my daughter in broad daylight, in front of witnesses, and they just let her go. Romeca's mother cried at a press conference. For nearly 3 months, Holly Johnson walked free while Romeca's family demanded answers. But investigators weren't done. The evidence they uncovered would seal Holly's fate. The decision to release Holly without charges ignited a firestorm across Chicago and beyond. Community activists, local politicians, and Romeca's family held daily press conferences demanding accountability. Murals appeared on South Loop walls bearing Romeca's face and the words, "Justice for Romeca." Vigil surveillance footage and combing through digital evidence. The public wanted answers, and they wanted Holly Johnson behind bars. The question everyone asked, why wasn't she arrested immediately? Detectives had to answer that question, and the evidence they found was damning. Investigators meticulously reconstructed the events of September 8th. Surveillance cameras from multiple angles captured the entire incident, the confrontation, Holly walking to her car, retrieving the firearm, and opening fire. Audio from 911 calls revealed panicked witnesses screaming, "She just shot her." Multiple times, "She's not moving. Forensic evidence confirmed Romeca had been struck by several bullets. Ballistics matched Holly's registered firearm. Crucially, there was no evidence Romeca had been armed or posed a threat. Witnesses were consistent. Romeca had tried to de-escalate, backing away with her hands raised. The defense would later challenge the credibility of the star witness, claiming obstructions in the surveillance video and questioning if the witness could have seen what they claimed while wearing noise-canceling headphones and standing behind a wall. But one piece of evidence couldn't be disputed: Holly's own words. When prosecutors charged Holly Johnson on December 5, 2025, they didn't just charge her with murder. They filed 5 additional felony counts, including aggravated stalking. Digital forensics revealed Holly had been monitoring Romeca's location in the weeks leading up to the shooting. She posted videos online bashing Romeca, making threats, and engaging in targeted harassment. Under Illinois law, aggravated stalking involves a pattern of conduct causing fear or emotional distress, often supported by electronic evidence. Prosecutors argued Holly's social media activity showed premeditation. She wasn't reacting in the moment. She had been planning. 2 posts became central to the case. One reading, "I could never," and another referencing, "unaliving MF." The defense fought to suppress them, arguing they would prejudice the jury. But the judge had other plans. In a pivotal pre-trial hearing, the prosecution filed a motion to admit Holly's social media posts, the "I could never" video and the "unaliving MF" post, into evidence. The defense objected vehemently, arguing the posts would unfairly prejudice the jury and didn't prove intent. But the judge sided with the prosecution. "This goes to show Holly's state of mind," the judge ruled. "The jury needs to see it. It supports the prosecution's theory of premeditation." The posts were deemed admissible. This was a major blow to the defense. The prosecution now had concrete evidence suggesting Holly had contemplated violence before the shooting. Combined with the stalking charges, aggravated discharge of a firearm near a school zone, and witness testimony, the case against Holly Johnson was mounting. And then came the moment that would define the trial. Carlos Smith took the stand. On January 8, 2026, Carlos Smith appeared in court during a pre-trial hearing. In a stunning moment, he addressed the allegations against him. Prosecutors had claimed Carlos physically restrained Romeca, grabbing her in a headlock, beating her with a car door, while Holly retrieved her gun. Carlos denied everything. "I didn't headlock her. I didn't beat her with the door. I only tried to defuse the situation," he testified, his voice breaking. "They keep deflecting away from the truth. We need justice to be served through the truth." His testimony raised more questions than answers. If he was trying to stop the violence, why didn't he call 911? Why did he fist bump Holly after she shot Romeca? The courtroom was tense. Romeca's family sat in the gallery, some crying, others shaking their heads. And then Holly Johnson entered her plea. On January 8, 2026, Quadajah, Holly Johnson was formally arraigned on 6 felony charges: first-degree murder, aggravated stalking, aggravated discharge of a firearm near a school, and 3 additional stalking-related counts. The courtroom was packed with media, Romeca's family, and the public. Holly appeared with her attorneys. When the judge asked how she pleaded, Holly's voice was steady: "Not guilty. Not guilty to murder. Not guilty to stalking. Not guilty to all counts." The defense's strategy was clear: self-defense. They would argue Romeca had been the aggressor, that Holly feared for her life, and that the shooting was legally justified. The prosecution scoffed. "Self-defense doesn't involve celebrating over a body," they countered. The battle lines were drawn. But Holly had one more request, and it was shocking. Following the arraignment, Holly's defense team filed a motion requesting her release from jail. The reason? Holly claimed she was pregnant. Her attorneys argued she should be placed on home confinement or electronic monitoring due to her condition. The motion cited her pregnancy as grounds for compassionate release pending trial. But there was a problem. According to court documents, Holly had a 6-month-old child in her car at the time of the September 8 shooting. If that child was 6 months old in September 2025, and Holly was now pregnant in January 2026, the timeline raised questions. Was she truly pregnant, or was this a legal strategy? The public was divided. Some believed it was manipulation. Others argued a woman's pregnancy status shouldn't affect justice. The judge's decision would shock the courtroom. The judge denied Holly's motion for release. Despite claims of pregnancy, the court ruled Holly Johnson posed a significant flight risk and danger to the community. She would remain in custody pending trial. No home confinement, no electronic monitoring. The defense appeared frustrated but composed. Romeca's family breathed a sigh of relief. Holly's supporters, present in the courtroom, shook their heads in disbelief. Legal analysts noted the denial wasn't surprising given the severity of the charges and the evidence. First-degree murder with aggravating factors, stalking, premeditation, discharge of a firearm near a school, meant Holly was unlikely to see freedom before trial. Her next court date was set for February 3, 2026, for a status hearing to address motions, evidence, and trial timelines. But as the trial date approached, new questions emerged. The trial will hinge on two radically different stories. The prosecution's narrative. Holly Johnson, consumed by jealousy over Carlos Smith's relationship with Romeca, stalked her victim for weeks, monitoring her location and posting threats online. On September 8, she confronted Romeca outside her son's school, retrieved a firearm, and executed her in cold blood. The fist bump with Carlos? A celebration. Premeditated murder. The defense's narrative. Holly was attacked by Romeca. Fearing for her life, she lawfully defended herself with her registered firearm. The social media posts? Taken out of context. The surveillance video? Obstructed, unreliable. The star witness? Questionable credibility. Wearing noise-canceling headphones, standing behind a wall. Could they truly have seen what they claimed? The jury will decide, and the community remains divided. Romeca Meeks Blackman's death devastated Chicago's South Loop and beyond. But the real victims, many say, are the children. Romeca's 6-year-old son will grow up without his mother. He'll never hear her voice again, never feel her hug, never have her walk him to school. Holly's child, whether 6 months old or older, will grow up with a mother behind bars, facing life in prison. And if Holly is truly pregnant, another child will be born into this tragedy. As one commentator said, in the midst of adults fighting about what's right, what's fact, what's fiction, they're losing sight of the children. They're the biggest losers in all of this. Romeca's family established a memorial fund, and the community continues to demand justice. But beyond the courtroom, this case forces us to confront uncomfortable truths. The Romeca Meeks case is a stark reminder of how jealousy, unchecked rage, and toxic relationships can spiral into deadly violence. Digital stalking, once considered harmless, is now recognized as a serious precursor to physical harm. Holly's alleged monitoring of Romeca's location, her threatening posts, and her public harassment all fit a pattern experts call pre-assault behavior. Romeca was caught in the crossfire of a relationship dynamic she didn't create. She was simply a mother raising her son. Holly, prosecutors argue, allowed jealousy to consume her. Carlos Smith's role remains deeply troubling. His presence, his alleged actions, and that fist bump all raise questions about complicity. This case forces society to confront how we handle domestic disputes, co-parenting conflicts, and online threats before they escalate. As the trial looms, one question remains. Will justice be served? Quadajah, Holly Johnson remains in custody, awaiting trial for first-degree murder and 5 additional felony counts. The evidence is substantial. Surveillance footage, 911 calls, witness testimony, forensic evidence, digital stalking records, and her own social media posts. But the defense will fight every claim. They'll challenge the credibility of witnesses, argue self-defense, and attempt to poke holes in the prosecution's theory. The trial will be emotional, contentious, and closely watched. Romeca's family will attend every day, seeking justice. The community will be watching. And the nation will be reminded of the devastating cost of jealousy and violence. A jury of Holly's peers will ultimately decide her fate. Guilty or not guilty, justice or injustice. The verdict will come, but whatever the outcome, one truth remains. Romeca Meeks Blackman was 31 years old. She was a mother who loved her son enough to walk him to school every single morning, even on the day it cost her everything. She had dreams, hopes, and a future stolen from her in seconds. Her 6-year-old son will grow up without her. Her mother will carry this pain forever. And the community will never forget the morning a mother was gunned down outside an elementary school. This case isn't just about legal arguments, surveillance footage, or social media posts. It's about a real woman, a real life, a real loss. As we await the trial, let us remember Romeca, not as a victim, but as a devoted mother whose love for her son defined her final moments. To Romeca's family, may you find strength as justice unfolds. To her son, may you always know your mother loved you fiercely. To the children caught in this tragedy, both Romeca's and Holly's, may you find healing, support, and a future free from the pain of your parents' choices. To the community, continue demanding accountability, but also show compassion for the innocent lives affected. And to all of us, let this be a reminder that behind every true crime story is a human being, someone's daughter, someone's mother, someone's child. Romeca Meeks Blackman deserved better. She deserved to see her son grow up. She deserved to live. If this story moved you, if you believe in justice for Romeca Meeks Blackman, subscribe to this channel, like this video, share it with others, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a development. Justice delayed is not justice denied.